Mercy has been one of the most requested styles I have ever gotten, and now that I have the freedom to style what I want, I can finally make this tutorial for you guys. Since nobody gives a shit about long intros, let's just dive into it. Mercy's bangs are heavier on her right side, which is our left. First thing to do is be like Moses and part the sea of fibers. I can make this joke because I'm Jewish. Part the bangs so that 2/3 of the bang fibers will be sitting on your left, and use an iron or steam gun to heat set the fibers. This commissioner chose the Assist Wig in Milky Blonde as their base, plus a premium mid-length in the same color to harvest wefts from. Use a seam ripper to get all of the wefts from the cap. The secret is to wiggle the seam ripper's tooth into the threads holding the wefts to the wig. I like combining wigs for extra volume. You don't have to, but I like them thick. Well, would you look at that? I've got the beginnings of a riffraff wig. I've skinned the rest of the fibers off camera since it's much of the same and I don't want to bore you to death. Hot glue or sew the bang wefts you now have into every weft layer onto your base wig. I hot glue because it takes a fraction of the time, and honestly, you can't tell the difference. But let me give you this one word of advice. Never mess with someone who sews their wefts. They know true suffering, and they have nothing to lose. Oh, look how thick my girl is now! To add volume, tease the living hecky out of both sides of the bangs. You can also use the crimping method to add volume, but I didn't know how to do it until the commission literally right afterwards, so yeah!
So I realized I forgot to mention that after you tease the bangs, you're going to want to run a comb very lightly through the top layer of fibers so they look cleaner like this. You don't want to just leave it teased and looking like a rat's nest.
After you're done with the initial tease, separate every individual bang spike so you have a plan when you're actually ready to touch the hairspray. It's just a personal preference, but I don't hairspray anything until every single fiber has been accounted for and is exactly where it needs to be. I've f***ed up far too many wigs in the past, and my trauma has turned me into a meticulous planner. So leave the bangs for now, and add the rest of the wefts to the ponytail portion. I stack the majority of the fibers on the outer weft layers and leave the short center layers alone. After all the glue has cooled, put the fibers back into a high tail. To make it look cleaner, I gather the fibers in small sections, starting at the top and working my way down. Instead of tying the ponytail like you normally would, take the elastic that was holding the tail before and stretch it all the way around the tail. This will decrease the likelihood of you f***ing up all your hard work. At this point, I got impatient, so I just trimmed the baby hairs in the back and separated out the fibers that would be the sideburns. I used the steamer to set the fibers to point in the direction I wanted. When you trim the fibers, cut in an up-down motion to make the ends wispier. Is it hairspray time now? No. No, it is not. Now we have to re-tease and shape each individual piece. Use the steamer on the underside of a spike while pointing it upwards to give it even more volume. Once you have the general shape you like, trim the piece to length. The steamer will also be used to add bends in her bangs. The goal is to get the fibers to naturally stay in the shape you want without hairspray, so your style lasts longer. Wigs will always need to be maintained after use, but if you heat set your fibers, the wig will keep its shape for the most part, with only minor degrade. With the final piece set, it is finally hairspray time! Give a light initial spray and blow dry it until hard. Then give it a second spray with a little more product and blow dry that. Do this for every piece. It's gonna take forever to wash this shit out of my hands. You probably thought I forgot about her dingle. Well, you were absolutely right, I had completely forgotten. With the bangs done, it's time to move on to the tail. Separate the tail into all the individual pieces you want, just like you did with the bangs. She has 3 smaller spikes at the top of the tail and several longer ones below. Make sure you keep the thickness of each individual piece in mind while you're divvying up the fibers. We're gonna be turning back the clock to the 80s and teasing everything aggressively. PSA to all the kids who want to make fun of how their parents looked in their youth. Trends come and go. Things that you're doing may be cool right now, but they might look absolutely ridiculous in the future. Your parents probably only had that one yearbook photo and a handful of Polaroids of their hair. You have thousands. And the internet is forever. What I'm trying to say is, be nice. After you're done teasing, brush out your tease aggressively. Shape each spike the same way you did with the bangs. And boy howdy am I glad the process is the same, because my camera stopped recording after these 2 spikes, so I lost all that footage. All of it. Just pretend you saw me hairspray the piece after I steamed it, okay? Okay. And Mercy's done! Yay! Thank you guys so much for your patience for this tutorial. If you found it helpful, consider liking and subscribing to my channel. I'm constantly trying to improve my skills and learn new techniques so I can pass them on to you guys. If you have any suggestions for tutorials, leave a comment below, because I always read them despite advice otherwise. And now that it's illegal to leave my apartment due to the quarantine, I've got all the time in the world to edit. Who am I kidding? Nothing has changed. I never left the house anyway.